A very good morning and a very happy Sabbath to you all, and wishing all a very happy and prosperous Happy Chinese New Year. This is the year of the horse. In the Chinese zodiac, there are 12 animals. Now, no offense to anyone, but somehow horse is one of the preferred choices among all the 12 animals. Why? Because the horse in the Chinese understanding, it represents energy. It symbolizes progress. It gives the idea of achievement and the icon of success. So very often during the Chinese New Year season, we will wish one another, may you prosper, may you advance, may you rise higher than ever before, and all kinds of positive greetings. So the horse is a strong symbol in the zodiac Chinese framework. But this morning, I want to use the horse as an illustration to represent our Christian life. How can we run to finish the race well? So the question to ask this morning is that, will you finish well? The Christian race is not a 100-meter sprint. It's more like a marathon of 42 kilometers. And when we talk about running, we need to understand the passage this morning, especially it's taken from Hebrews chapter 12, verse 1 to 2. Hebrews was written to the Jewish Christians who had become tired of following Christ. They were facing certain level of threats and persecution, much society pressure, social rejection, loss of status, and there is the temptation to return to the old traditions where life felt safer. So if you flip through your Bible in Hebrews chapter 11, it is known as the faith chapter. And the chapter lists down all the heroes that had witnessed the divine intervention, the miraculous performance of God in their lives. Many were rescued and saved, but many others did not. And that is the context of chapter 12. That therefore, when the writer says therefore, it refers to the whole context of chapter 11. This cloud of faithful witnesses who had seen the light of God, who had seen the direction of God, who had followed God obediently in spite of difficult and impossible circumstances. And that is why Hebrews chapter 12 verse 1 to 2 says that we are to focus our eyes on Jesus. Let me read to you. We have the text here. I'm reading from the NIV version. In 12 verse 1 it says, therefore, since we are surrounded by such a great cloud of witnesses, this cloud of witnesses referring to the list of faithful ones in chapter 11. It says, let us throw off everything that hinders and the sin that so easily entangles. So there are a few verbs here this morning. Number one, to finish the race, we must throw off everything. Because this is in the context of the Greek runner. That when he runs, he wants to run as light as possible. He wears the lightest clothing, the lightest shoe. I didn't understand why, but for those of you who have served national service in Singapore, I realized that when we were trained to run the 2.4 kilometers, it's part of the physical training test, you always have to run with boots, the army boots. It's heavy in those days. It's not too light. And you have to run with it. And I didn't know why. It was heavy, it was difficult. But on the day of the test, you can change to your jogging shoe. And suddenly you feel that you're now running in the air. You feel light and easy. So the training and the discipline requires that. And then it says here that we do not allow sin to entangle us, and we run with perseverance and fixing our eyes on who? On Jesus. So that's the context of Hebrews chapter 12. Run with perseverance the race marked out for us. This race in our lives is designed and assigned by God. If you use the metaphor of your life races, some races are longer, some are harder, but all are purposeful. That is why the author says Jesus is the author and finisher of the race. Because he has started the race, he had ran the race, he had completed the race, and he says that you can finish the race too, because I'm running together with you. So Hebrews chapter 12 is not merely about the effort of running, but about the direction. So this is the race imagery, if you were to look at it this way. Number one, you are to strip the burdens, removing heavy clothing and sin that may hinder you in the race. And then you must run freely, unencumbered, with perseverance. And then the goal is to fix your eyes on Jesus, cross the finish line. So I want to give you an acronym this morning, as easy as it is, based on Hebrews chapter 12, verse 1 to 2. RACE. R, it stands for recognize the rider. A, accepted the training. C, commit to the mission. And E, endure to the finish. Let's begin with R, recognize the rider. A horse is powerful, but its strength becomes meaningful only when it follows the rider. The horse can be a tremendous blessing, but unless it has a rider. Wild horses may be beautiful from a distance, but they are of no use to anyone unless it's disciplined, it's trained, and there is a good rider on the horse. If you were to envision that your life is like a horse, especially in this year of the horse, then the question is, who is the rider of your life? Who is the rider of your life? And to complete the race, it's important for us to recognize that it's not just glancing at Jesus, occasionally looking at Jesus. For the horse to complete the race, his eyes must fix on Jesus, who stands at the finishing line. And that is why fixing our eyes on Jesus is important, because it helps us to focus. In fact, Hebrews 12 verse 2 says, fixing our eyes on Jesus. And Ellen White has this beautiful quotation from the book of Ministry of Healing, page 425. It says, looking unto Jesus, we obtain brighter and more distinct views of God. And by beholding, we become changed. If you look at Jesus through the Word, through His inspired message, through the prompting of the Spirit, you become more and more like Him. Likewise, if you look at other things, more than ever before, you will be changed by the subject, by the circumstances, even by the temptation and the indulgence that you may occasionally succumb to. Corrie ten Boom, one of the Dutch Christian theologians who survived the Holocaust and later became an international speaker who shared the message of forgiveness and faith and reconciliation, say this: if you look at the world, you will be distressed. If you look within, you will be depressed. But if you look at Christ, you will be at rest. Many of you in this congregation are very competent and capable professionals and individuals. But capability is not the same as calling. And that is why, if you were to envision yourself as a horse, the question is, who is the rider? Who is the one who reigns on you? Because the horse requires this, isn't it? That it is important that the horse, when it's trained, has the ropes that is tied so that the horse can be controlled, can be directed, can be used. If Christ is the rider of your life, is He in control of your career? Is He in control of your family? Is He in control of your decisions? Is He in control of your ambitions? Otherwise, like the horse, we may run very fast, but in the wrong direction. And heaven does not reward speed. It rewards obedience. So number one, recognize the rider. Who is the rider of your life? A, accept the training. persevering stewardship of life. Race horses are trained daily. Discipline produces endurance. And in Hebrews 12 verse 1, it says that run with perseverance. This Greek word appears 14 times in the entire New Testament. It is not just about patience. It's about strength to keep running the race despite exhaustion, affliction, and hostility. Perseverance is the daily faithfulness. And so, every horse that is from the wild, that is being captured, has to be trained and tamed and directed so that it becomes useful, isn't it? You will find that in ancient world, when the horses and the chariots go to war, every horse has been trained. Otherwise, they are of no use. In fact, they could sabotage the entire army. Likewise, we are encouraged to run with perseverance. If you look at the Bible, if you have your Bible, I want to encourage you to turn to Hebrews chapter 12. In fact, in the whole chapter, in verse 4, the NIV, verse 4 to verse 12, the NIV entitled as God disciplines his children. The word discipline here is about training. It's about the provision that God has given to us. Why? The goal is to what? Is to ensure that we finish the race. We finish well. And that is why in verse 4 it says, "My sons, do not make light of the Lord's discipline, and do not lose heart when he rebukes you. Because the Lord disciplines the one he loves, and he chastens everyone he accepts as his son." Many of you are parents, grandparents. At times you discipline your children, isn't it? Why? Because in case your child goes the wrong way, you want to rescue the child to ensure that he is on the right trajectory, on the right pathway. He will not, or she will not, go astray. Likewise, the Lord wants to ensure us that we will not go astray. Because stewardship is not just about finances. Stewardship is about the different areas of our life. For example, time. We need to ask a question. How do I use my days? Influence. Who listens to me? Position. Where God has placed me. And possession. What resources I manage. Everything belongs to him. That's why when you flip to the Bible in Genesis 1 verse 1, what does it say? The first verse in the Bible. In the beginning, God created what? The heavens and the earth. In other words, everything from the Christian perspective belongs to him. Your life, your possession, your time, your influence, whatever the Lord has placed upon you. The word steward means manager. They are not yours. When our office was in Jurong Church for many years, during lunchtime, I have the habit of going to the Jurong East library, the regional library. And my hobby or my pastime is just to spend those maybe 30 minutes, 20 minutes flipping through books and newspaper and magazines. And sometimes because I like to travel, I would borrow a book from the library and then would return it maybe 2 weeks later. But there's a problem. After I had taken the book from the library, I've forgotten that I have actually loaned a book from the library. And it's actually very advanced. It will send you a text message to remind you you had been late. You need to return the book. I said, okay, never mind. There was a book that I have taken from the library. I forgot to return for, I think, quite a few months. And they find me, and every day there's I think it's 5 cents or 10 cents, and then you commit. I think it's about 4 to 5 months. Then I realized when I paid the fine, it's about the cost of the book. And I was reminded that this book that you had taken is not yours. The fine reminds me that this book is not mine. I need to return. Likewise, the time, influence, position, possessions that Lord has given to us is not ours, but God's. And he allowed us to be steward, to use it for the advancement of his church, for the benefit of his people. And that is why Billy Graham, one of the well-known Christian evangelists, say this. And it's almost the same thing what Ellen White has said. The greatest legacy one can pass on is not money or possessions, but a legacy of what? Of character and faith. So stewardship keeps us free. If we do not manage our possessions, they begin to manage us. Like the horse. If there is no rider, somebody will ride on you. And if it's not Christ, who is riding your life? And that is why we need the experience of offering. It's to return, to be reminded that everything that I have is not mine. Recently, the gold prices have gone up. Many of you probably are more aware than me. And in preparation for the Chinese New Year, I found some of the gold chains and gold rings that my mom had accumulated for years. So I told her, Mom, this is a good time to sell away all of them. She said, why? I said, as the prices have gone up, right, let's sell it. And I said, why don't we do this? You keep 10% of all the gold that will be sold. Then she asked me, what do you do with the 90%? Okay, is this your goal? I said, I want to recommend to you to give it away. To give it to the church, to give it those who are in need. So we had an agreement. It's still in the process. Because 2 weeks ago, I went to one of the shops. I brought some of this jewelry and I wanted to redeem it, so to speak, and exchange it for cash. And the guy at the counter said, sorry, sir, for jewelry, they will accept gold bar, okay, 100 grams, 200 grams, whatever that might be. But jewelry, chain, rings, not at this moment. He says, because we are overwhelmed. We are overwhelmed. When I went there, there was a long queue. And a lot of people, apparently during this time, when the gold prices have gone up, they wanted to liquidate the gold. So I said, I'll come back again. So my agreement with my mom, why? Why this exercise? Because I want to remind my mom and myself that all this possession is not ours, but God. And while we can give, let's bless others. And it's interesting that when we talk about all these things, Jesus reminds us in Matthew 6:33 to seek first His kingdom and His righteousness. It's always God before profit, character before comfort, and kingdom become convenience. And that is why, as we accept the training, God placed us in different circumstances to remind us that He loves us. And at times, He disciplines us so that we will not go astray. Some Christians may pray, Lord, use me in your work. Then when the church asks for volunteers, they pray very hard that perhaps someone else will feel the call. Or someone may say, Lord, I'm available. And God says, good, this afternoon I need you. Then you may reply, Lord, I mean spiritually available. Or maybe you say, Lord, send me anywhere. And the Lord said, okay, start with your neighbor. And then you say, Lord, I was just thinking some overseas mission trips. The Lord wants us, loves us, and He wants to shape and guide us in this journey to finish the race. See, commit to mission. We must learn to live for eternity. The Christian race is not about self-improvement. It's about Christ's mission. And it is about the Spirit of God, and the counsel and the instructions of God's word will shape and mold us. So this commitment to mission is to remind us that while the horse is running and moving, it must fix its eyes on Jesus. That ultimately, we will cross the finishing line. It is important that we recognize that all things in this world someday shall come to pass. Jim Elliot, one of the well-known Christian writers, puts it this way. You have heard it many times. He is no fool who gives what he cannot keep to gain what he cannot lose. What are you keeping that will eventually lose out? So I told my mom, all the gold rings and the gold chains and whatever you have, someday they will be used as the pavement and the road in the streets of heaven. So better use it now for whatever purposes and value it has remained. And what are the things that you can keep and you will not lose? If you invest, if you begin to invest, not just in the property market, good as it may be, not just in the stock market, good as it may be, but if you invest your life, your heavenly treasure in heaven, it will not rust and mold. It will stay forever. The story of Eric Liddell was a Scottish runner in 1924 Paris Olympics. He was raised a Scottish Presbyterian tradition. He was favored to win the 100 meters race, his strongest event. But he discovered that the race heats would be held on Sunday. Now, he's a Presbyterian, so he kept his Sunday as the Sabbath. And he refused to compete because of his conviction about honoring the Lord's Day. Because of that decision, the British Olympic Committee pressured him. The public criticized him. The newspaper called him foolish. Instead, he entered the 400 meters race, an event he was not favored to win, neither was he trained professionally. On July 11, 1924, he ran in lane 7. Just before the race, an American trainer handed him with a paper note, scribbled with few of these words from 1 Samuel 2 verse 30. Those who honor me, I will honor. The gun fired, Liddell ran aggressively from the start. Unusual strategy for the 400 meters race, because normally you kind of reserve your final burst of energy in the last 100 meters or so. By the final stretch, his head was thrown back, his stride long and desperate, and he won, setting the new Olympic records for the 400 meters race at 47.6 seconds. The crowd roared. He became the national hero. Eric went on to win the gold medal, and one newspaper put the headline this way: others ran for gold, but Eric ran for God. And this is what makes his life remarkable. He has already decided before the Olympics that he will return to China as a missionary. He was born as a missionary in a missionary family in China. His parents were missionaries there. After the games, he could build a celebrity career for his gold medal win, but he did not. He returned to China in 1925. He spoke fluent Chinese. He taught science. He preached Christ. He served faithfully. During the Japanese invasion, he remained to help. Eventually, he was placed in an internment camp. In 1945, he died from a brain tumor at the age of 43. One of his fellow prisoners wrote in his memoir that Liddell's life in the camp was marked by, even in the hardest moment, the very harsh circumstances, he persevered in his faith. He said he was marked by joy, humility, and constant service to others. Eric Liddell may have lost the Olympic fame, but he finished the race. He ran for something greater than medals. He ran for eternity. And that is why I think it's important to be reminded in this new year that if we are to run, are we going to run in the right direction? Are we going to finish well? The last point. Well, Ellen White has a quotation. A character formed according to the divine likeness is the only treasure that we can take from this world to the next. Similar to what Billy Graham had mentioned. This is the only thing. So whatever you have in your hand, use it to bless others, to bless the church, to bless the people around you, to use it to advance the cause of the mission that God has placed upon your heart. Why is it very difficult to finish well? The last E. Let me just repeat. R stands for what? Recognize the rider. A stands for accept the training. C stands for your commit to the mission. And finally, R stands for endure. E stands for endure to the finish. What does it mean to finish well? In recent years, great light of Christianity, many significant church leaders that started mega church movements had fallen from grace. Even if you go back to the Adventist history, for example, a very well-known character, Harvey Kellogg. Harvey Kellogg was a medical doctor and very well informed, very brilliant, very diligent, and formed sanitariums across the Adventist churches. But later, in fact, when he went to medical school, it was Ellen White who has supported him for his fees. He became a well-known physician, very influential, very wise, very intelligent. But in the later part of his life, his ego got the better of him. And he began to want to build greater sanitarium, greater institution, all to be positioned in one location. And despite the warning from Ellen White, despite the warning from God, and God burned that place down to the floor. If you go to Battle Creek today, you could recognize that place. And Harvey Norman, Harvey Kellogg, not Norman, that's a shopping mall. Maybe I've gone there too often. Harvey Kellogg started very well, but at the end, he left the church altogether. Sad. And many pioneers of the Adventist movement had similar ending. And many great lights of Christian leaders ended the same way. And you and I are to be somberly reminded that if we are to finish well, like the horse, we have to begin to unload. Unload the things that may entangle us. And that is why the author says that Jesus is the author and finisher of our faith. What does that mean? Because he had completed the race, completed it perfectly, endured with suffering to the end. Therefore, when we run the race, he is running together with us. He knows our circumstances, he knows our challenges, he knows our pains, he knows our temptations. But the focus is here. If we fix our eyes on Jesus, not on everything else, as the hymn says, all the things of this world will grow strangely dim in the light of his glory and grace. As the horse follows his rider, believers finish well by letting Jesus set the direction, shape the character, and sustain the endurance in their lives. And every step moves toward eternity rather than temporary success. So to finish well, what does it mean? It means to become like Christ, participate in his mission, and remain faithful to the end. In the Greek word, in the New Testament, there are two Greek words that were described, translated as crown. One is the word diadema, we sing in the English hymn, diadem, the crown. The crown that is made of gold. Even gold prices have gone up. It's real gold. And it's given to all the kings, the princes. All right? It symbolizes power, authority, wealth, and position. But there is another Greek word. It's translated also as crown. In the English translation, sometimes it doesn't do justice. It's the word Stephanos. It's the victor's wreath. It's not made of gold, but woven garland placed upon the head of the one who had finished the race. Because in the Greek culture, the one that had finished the race, they will be given this flower leaf wreath above the head as a symbol that they have finished the entire marathon. It symbolizes endurance. And when Paul says in 1 Corinthians 9 verse 25, we should seek, and every believer should seek for the imperishable crown. He's not referring to the diadem. It's not the gold kingly crown. He's referring to the Stephanos, the crown that represents the one that will complete and finish the race. Which crown are you looking after? Which crown are you pursuing? Which crown do you wish to have? And from God's perspective, he wants to provide us this important crown, the crown of life. And when we cross the finishing line, he wants to provide us with the victory that he is there to watch over us. Because from God's eternal perspective, he is not going to ask this question: how much properties do you have? He's not going to ask, how many promotions have you received? He's not going to ask how many awards have you accumulated. Based on the three parables in Matthew 25. The parable of the faithful servants, remember? The parable of the 10 virgins, and the parable of the sheep and goats. 3 questions. Did you reflect Christ? Did you serve others? Did you steward what I had entrusted to you? Years ago in an European city, tourists loved to ride elegant carriage horses through the streets. One particular horse was not impressive anymore because that horse was old, slow, and had a few scars. And new horses were faster and stronger, so the visitors chose them first. One day, the story goes, there was a storm that hit the city. Loud thunder, flashing lightnings, slippery roads, and the younger horses panicked. Some refused to move. Some tried to bolt and run away. But that old horse stood still. And then slowly pulled the carriage forward. Why? Because for many years, he had been trained to trust the driver's voice more than his own fear. He had learned the route so well that even in chaos, it stayed steady. Step by step, through the wind and rain, it brought every passenger safely home. And the driver said, in his conclusion, the young horses run fast when the weather is good. The old horse brings you home. I think many of us here, including myself, maybe are old horses. But you know what? We can play a part to remain steady, to hear the voice of God. So that not only we will be safely home, we can bring others safely along the way. Anyone can run when life is sunny, but faith is revealed in the storm. Finishing well, what does it mean? It means we trust the rider's voice more than our feelings. One day, different storms may come upon your life. Maybe your age, disappointment, your health, your finances, your marriage, your children, your weaknesses, and all the uncertainty. But God is looking for faithfulness. Because heaven celebrates not the fastest runner, but it celebrates the one who stays with Jesus until the end. So what will be the take-home message today? What are some of the call to action? Number 1, set one Christ-centered adjustment. What do I need to let Jesus hold reins? Imagine as a horse. What does he need to help you? Is it a decision? Is it a relationship? Is it a business direction? Make one clear surrender this week. Second, schedule kingdom time. Are there time in your life for service, for ministry, mentoring younger believers, support one mission initiative, and last but not least, invest for eternity. Review influences and resources prayerfully. How can your position bless others? How can your possession bless others? How can your influence bless others and bless the church? How can you give to reflect eternity? It's very often in the Chinese New Year, we pray, Lord, please bless me. Please bless me with more wealth, with more health. Please help me in all my situations. It is very common to do that. But perhaps in this Chinese New Year, we take a twist to that request of everyone. Instead of praying to the Lord, may I prosper. Same words. You say, may I prosper in what matters eternally. May I prosper in matters that truly has significant impact eternally. So in conclusion, RACE. Recognize the rider, accept the training, commit to the mission, endure to the finish. Because the horse runs with focus, the horse runs with discipline, the horse runs with endurance. Not just to start well, not just to look strong, but one day, when you cross the finishing line, the Lord will say to you, well done, good and faithful servant. May SDACC Church continue to run. We run to encourage one another so that we will someday cross the finishing line, and the Lord will be there to welcome all us. May the Lord bless us in this new year, especially in this Chinese New Year. May we all run like the horse that is truly empowered and trained by the words of God, so that our life will bring glory and blessing to Him, and truly impact the lives that God has placed in our influence. May the Lord bless us.